Okay, greetings to one and all in one, wherever you might be in the world. We're on the 6th day of the second Adar 5776 countdown, the 8-day countdown to Purim has begun. Where is Dick Clark when you need him? In Times Square. Okay, with God's help, put on your seatbelts. We're going to go for a tremendous ride here. Subject today, this week's Shiur and next week's class. Next week, we're not going to offer anybody here any food here. Don't take it personally, but it's a fast day. We're going to be giving a class, for the sake of heaven, no food offered here. Though lately I notice here in the Holy Apple, it's becoming more and more spiritual, more and more for the sake of heaven. There is no food. There used to be food here in the class. This is one of the places I think left. This is one of the few places left in the world that when you come to learn, you don't get any food. You don't get any junk, any drinks, It's one of the most healthiest classes left on the universe. So think about that one. Okay, subject for this week and next week, part 1 today, is Purim, a holiday of Eretz Yisrael, of the land of Israel, or a holiday of the exile. Now, most people, of course, would answer simply, without thinking too much. They would say, of course, it's a holiday of the exile. It took place in Persia, place outside the land of Israel. So of course it's a holiday that is a holiday of Chutz La'aretz, of outside the land of Israel. Okay, so let's see if that is correct. We have here a quick point for this Shabbat coming up in 3 days. It's called Shabbat Zachor, which we remember the transgressions, remember the nation of Amalek, in order to, God willing, very soon, inshallah, in order to wipe them out. So, listen to this. This could be found in 2 places. I have it in 1 place, but afterwards, a couple days later, I heard somebody told me that it's in a different book also. It's by the chief rabbi, former chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. His name was Rav Yosef Zunfeld, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. It's from a book called Ner Tamid. It's at the end of the portion of the week that it's called Ki Teitze, which has, of course, that's where we read the verses of the destruction of Amalek. So it says the following. One time, a Jew came up to Rav Zunfeld and said, listen, on one hand, I understand that we've been commanded to annihilate any remembrance of Amalek. And I've heard from many people that have told me that Amalek, in our days, was Germany. But he says two reasons I can't buy that it's Germans are Amalek. First reason, he says, is the following. It says in the Talmud, it says that after the king of Assyria, Sancheriv, after he took power, what he did was a kind of a musical chair kind of role that he played with all the nations. He took a nation from one side of the world and put them on the opposite, and he mixed countries. He tried to, mix all people. So therefore today we don't know who's Amalek because all the nations have been mixed up. So that's first reason I can't buy it. Second reason is if we open up the second portion of the Torah, Noah, we'll see there very clearly that Germany is a descendant of Yefet. And we know that Haman, he comes from the descendants of Shem. He was a Semite. He's from the family of Yishmael and Esav, from the Jewish people, connection to the Jewish people. That's why we said, if you're ever thinking, where does that term come? The worst anti-Semites are Jews. Many times, it's right there. Yeah, where does Amalek come from? Well, he comes from Esav. Where does Esav come from? Oh, Isaac and Rebekah. Oh, where else does he come from? He comes from also, he's connected to Ishmael. Who's that? Oh, it's the son of Abraham. Don't take it too seriously. Well, very interesting. Well, that's where we get the source of the worst anti-Semites. Okay, so how could it be that Germany, who comes from the descendants of Yefet, nothing to do with Amalek? So here was the response of Rav Zunenfeld. This could also be found in a book about his life, a bibliography of his life. It's called The Man on the Wall. Okay, not another brick in the wall, but it's The Man on the Wall. It's a life story of Rav Yosef Zunenfeld. He says the following. He says, if you notice in the verses where it talks about exterminating Amalek, it doesn't say exterminate Amalek. It says exterminate the memory. It adds the word memory. Memory. Why is that? Why does it add the word memory? It should have been enough. Just say remove, to annihilate, eliminate any the children, descendants of Amalek. What's the memory here? So he writes the unbelievable Torah. Folks, open up your hearts. He says that when we're talking about the commandment to wipe out Amalek, we're not talking specifically only about Amalek per se as is known. No, we're talking about Zecher Amalek. There are nations that take on the memory, the job, the occupation, what Amalek began. There are many nations throughout history that take upon themselves to finish up the job. So therefore, and he says the following, okay, this Rav Yosef Zunenfeld, he says the following: any nation that travels down the same road, the same path, the same ideology as Amalek, any nation that reminds us of Amalek according to the ways that they act, and according to their deeds, and according to their hatred of the Jewish people, those you should annihilate. Unbelievable. Beautiful chidush. Actually not such a great chidush because it's written in many, many places. Now is not the time, but maybe one day we'll do just a class on this. Who today is Amalek? If we recall, if we rewind ourselves, we spoke in the third or fourth class on Islam for Dummies. We brought in Rav Chaim Vital. Now remember this. Rav Chaim Vital says why did Ishmael not make the top 4 list of the exiles? We're familiar with 4 exiles, and Ishmael is not on that list. How come he was excluded? So Rav Chaim Vital says what the 4 nations that it brings down, these are nations that are coming to destroy the religion, the spirituality, the Torah of the Jewish people. And therefore, if the Jews will agree to uproot their spirituality themselves, they have no problems with them. Just look at those Hellenists. They had no problem. The Greeks didn't have any problem with the Hellenists, with these Jews that became Greeks, with the philosophy and their ideology. So therefore, Rav Chaim Vital writes, that is the list of the 4. Whenever you see 4 nations, you know that they're coming after the spiritual of the Jewish people. And therefore Ishmael, Islam did not make the list. Why? Because he's coming from a totally different place. He's coming from a place of annihilating the Jewish people. That's his ideology. Annihilating the Jewish people has nothing to do with the religion. It has nothing to do with uprooting Torah. It has to do with total annihilation. So therefore, we could add this to the list of what Rav Zudenfeld, Yosef Chaim Zudenfeld, is telling us, that it's just not Amalek. There are many, many other nations that continue the ideology and continue flag-bearing the mouthpiece of Amalek. Okay, now.
What's interesting, Rabbi, is the two other monotheistic religions, so to speak, both use the same premise to annihilate the Jews. That we've rejected their so-called prophet. So it's interesting.
Right. Okay, folks. Now, Purim, holiday of Eretz Yisrael, holiday of outside the land of Israel, of the exile. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It says in the Megillah, the second chapter, the 6th verse, it says, when we meet for the first time Mordechai, listen to the language here. It says, very repetitive, Asher hogla miYerushalayim, once, Im hagola asher hogleta, two, Im Yechonia melech Yehuda asher hegla Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel. Translated loosely, how do we know Mordechai? Mordechai, he was exiled from Jerusalem. And with the exile, during the reign of the king of Judah, his name was Yochniah, he was exiled by the king, the foreign king, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylonia. Now, this is very repetitive. Okay, 3 times it uses the word Mordechai was exiled. So the Gra weighs in here with a beautiful Gra. Check this out. The first time we meet Mordechai, what do we, you meet somebody for the first time. You want them to know, like, who you are, like a few principles, who you stand for. Okay, so we meet somebody. Anytime in the Torah where we meet something, a principle, a word, a letter for the first time, study that very closely. Because as the Rav Tzadok HaKohen, the Shla Kadosh tell us, and many others, the first place you see a concept, that is considered to be the entire foundation of that word or of that person's name. So if you look at the beginning, you'll be able to understand as it plays out each time, you'll know what the foundation is. So when we meet up the first verse of Mordechai, we better pay close attention. So the Gra says, 3 times it uses the word Mordechai being exiled. Why is that? To show us how much he loved the land of Israel. That 3 times he was in the land of Israel and the Gentiles came and tossed him out. He was in the land of Israel, they tossed him out, that's once. He ran back to the land of Israel, they found him again, he was on the wanted list, dead or alive, and then they threw him back into outside the land of Israel. He ran again, 3 times. This is Mordechai. Mordechai represents, his flag says on it, I love the land of Israel. Meet Mordechai. Okay. Now, we see that Mordechai does not bow down to Haman. Okay? We see that he doesn't bow down to Haman. Actually, I think before we get down to the bowing down, let's take one step back. One step back. We have the party, and that's some party. I mean, it's like a heavy-duty party. 180 days, Mr. Party himself, Achashverosh, for 6 months between the month of Nisan, which is the beginning of the spring, approximately, until Tishrei, which is the beginning of fall. For 6 months, there's this gigantic party going on. What was the role of this party? I mean, that's like a pretty heavy party. You must be happy. I mean, sometimes you have a birthday, so you have a party for a day, or the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. I can understand for a few weeks. I myself would, after 100 and something years here, I would throw a party for a couple of weeks straight. But 6 months, man, you take the cake, Guinness is in your hands. Okay, so let's bring in again Eretz Yisrael, the temple, land of Israel, the temple, the redemption. We see that flag again. What's the flag? It says in many sources that we have that the reason why the king made a party was the fact that according to his calculations, see, there's 3 ways to calculate the 70 years. If you really want to know, go back to about 3 months ago, we had a class up on Mount Gerizim, and I discussed that in length. There's a class on the Mount Gerizim day, the 25th of Tevet. Check it out. I go into detail. There are 3 different opinions how to calculate the 70 years. Okay, so Achashverosh makes one of those calculations. And then he throws a party. Now, it's very interesting. At this party, it's not just regular party. It's not like throwaways. All of a sudden, you have the vessels of the temple in the party. Not only that, do you have the vessels of the temple, the party. You have the king. He's coming out in the cloak, in the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest of the Jewish people. I mean, what's going on over here? I mean, is this a costume party here? Why are they using it? Because that's the whole celebration, got it? The whole celebration is that the Jewish people, 70 years have passed since they were thrown out of the land of Israel, and therefore they will not return to the land of Israel. They will not build the temple. They will not be redeemed. So that is why, for a half a year, they have a party. They have a party. I'm not going to get into it now, but the 180 days is exact. It's not just, okay, a guy wakes up, whoa, let's have a party for 180 days. It's exact. Why? Because these were the treasures. It took that many days, 180 days, to show the treasures that they had stolen from the Jews of the temple. So it's 180, it's exact. Not only that, it says in the Talmud, that the meal was a meal of the land of Israel. The food that was served was the food of the land of Israel. It was typical of a land of Israel meal. Now, I don't think that means that they had some like falafel and like hummus and pita, baby, and some tahina, some tahina. I don't think that's what they're talking about. But we know that the land of Israel represents completeness, wholeness. It represents completion. So therefore, what's the message? Achashverosh is telling the Jews, you know what? You're probably bummed out here, perhaps. You guys aren't going back to the land of Israel, but that's cool. Why? Because, you know what? Here, you don't need the land of Israel, because we're going to give you the food that you would probably be receiving in the land of Israel. This is exactly a comment that was made by the king of Assyria, Sancherib. He says, don't worry, Jews, I'm going to exile you in a land that is on par with the land of Israel. Oh, on par with the land of Israel, eh? So he's rubbing it in. He says, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a meal. The meal is going to be food from the land of Israel. Of course, it's not from the land of Israel, but everything is in large quantities, and you can eat all you want, and it's plentiful, and it's wholesome, and it's really top-notch, and everything's clean. He's rubbing it in that as if we're in the land of Israel somewhere over the rainbow in Persia. Okay. So we have this party, and Mordechai comes. He's calling a timeout. 1 second here, guys, 1 second. He's calling a timeout, and he says, don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go to that party. Now, Mordechai, I'm sure he's not a party pooper, but he says, don't go to that party. And I've asked a lot of great rabbis, what was behind, what was going on in the minds of the Jewish people that they agreed to go to the party? So I've heard from many rabbis, I've heard similar fears that the Jewish people had. They were worried. If they didn't go, the results would be terrible for them. But I would ask them, where's the source? Where do you see this? And no one was able to give me an answer. Anyways, miraculously, yesterday, I'm sitting in yeshiva, and I'm looking in a different book, and all of a sudden it quotes none other than Michtav Meliyahu, Rabbi Dessler. Rabbi Dessler, Michtav Meliyahu, in his book, first volume, page number 76. Page number 76. First source I've ever seen what's going on in the psyche of the Jewish people. Mordechai gets up there and says, don't go. Don't go. This is going to be used against us by God, by the heavenly tribunal. Imagine, like Hitler, Yimach Shemo, may his name be raised, he has a party and we come. This is awful. How can you go to a party, when you're the roast, you're being roasted? Where's Jewish pride? Where's Jewish honor? So listen to the words. He brings down, it says it by Chazal, Mordechai tells them, do not go. Do not. By your going, he says, you're going to cause a tremendous, the prosecution against us is going to be loaded with ammunition. If we go to this party, man, we're up the creek. And they did not listen to him. And Rav Dessler writes, and there were various reasons why the Jewish people stated, we are going to go. They disagreed with Mordechai. Let's listen to their reasons. It is a danger to the Jewish people's future. Sound familiar? Yeah. Pikuach nefesh. Why? Because you know that King Achashverosh, he's one stupid king. And with stupid people, they do stupid things. That's why they're stupid. So today he might be smiling, but tomorrow he can kill us all. If he sees that all the nations, all the representatives, all the nations are coming to this party for 6 months, who's missing? Oh, the Jews are missing. Do you understand, Mordechai? Do you understand the implications here? You are endangering the Jewish people. and they go, and many of them, 18,500. It almost sounds like capacity crowd at Lakers Stadium when I was a kid. I mean, it's no longer at the house that Jack built, but it used to be 17,505, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty close. Now, let's go one step further here. What was one of the most famous commentaries on the Megillat Esther is Manot HaLevi. It's Rav Shlomo Alkabetz. You might recognize the name. When we come accept the Shabbat every week, we sing Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. He wrote that. Look in the first acronym of each verse, and you'll see his name, Shlomo. Okay, so he writes on page 410 as an unbelievable 2-volume commentary on the Megillah. Here's what he says. There were 4 different groups, 4 different ideologies in regard to what should the Jewish response be to this invitation to the party. The party which is partying for the downfall of the Jewish people. 1. There's a group of Jews that went to the party, and as soon as they saw that the food was not kosher, man, they took off. I mean, I have to laugh here a little bit because of the fact, like, it's a little bit, the food wasn't kosher. Like, that's the problem. Today, you have cruises, you have vacations that take you outside the land of Israel or to unbelievable places, but the food's kosher. But the whole idea of the tour is treif, oh good, so the food's kosher. Oh my God, that's it. It says that when they saw that the food was not kosher, they took off. Okay. Second group, they came and they saw and they understood that the food wasn't kosher. No problem. You know what they say? When in Rome, do as the Romans. When in Persia, eat like the Persians. So they didn't have any problem with it. This group, totally assimilated, they said, whatever's offered, we're going to eat it. Why? Because if you don't eat, you might be upsetting, you might be endangering the Jewish people. If you don't eat their food, you might be getting the Gentiles upset, and then they're going to destroy the Jewish people. Oh my God. Okay, so that's the second group. Third group, they say, hey, we got it down. How do we have it down? We're going to, okay, hello, yeah. Is this Bernie's Catering, Glad Kosher Catering Cane? Can you send us a few thousand, meals over here? We're gonna need them, This is a big party, 180 days. Yeah, just send in a couple tons of chickens, a couple tons of kugel, shulm. Don't forget that shulm, please. Yes, make sure that everything is badat seidah charidit. Okay, sure. Okay, so there's a third group that they bring their own food. You like those kind of guests, right? Bring your own food. So they bring their own food. Not only that, they also ain't gonna work on Saturday. Ain't gonna work on Saturday. Double, triple pay. Just ain't gonna make me work on Saturday. And they were very, very strict that when it came Shabbos, party, but we're not part of the party. 6 days a week we're with you, but 1 day a week it's Shabbos. Just one Shabbos and we'll all be free. Leave us alone. On Shabbos, we're not part of your party. Okay? So, very good. They bring their own food, like those guests, and they keep Shabbos. They keep Shabbos. Very good. And there is another group. Okay? The last group was people that didn't go. People that didn't go. We're not going to that party. That party is endangering the Jewish people, not by being absent. Being absentee, that is not going to endanger the Jewish people. It's the opposite. Okay, so now the Rav Shlomo Alkovitz, he brings down these 4 groups, and he's going to now bring down the mistake. Each group, okay, except for one, has a mistake. Okay, what's the problem with the first group, right? Let's get it back. First group, they go to the party. All of a sudden, what is that smell? It smells like pig in here. It smells like sea fish, shellfish. Wow. There must be 50 ways to leave your party. You know, and they get out of there. What's wrong with that? Righteous people, seems to me. So, Rav Shlomo Alkovitz says, no. Why'd you go at all? Why'd you go at all? You're going to a party which represents, the motto is, the Jewish people are finished. The land of Israel is finished. The Temple Mount is finished. That's the party. Shouldn't have gone at all. That you went. You ran away because of the food. Another opinion. What was wrong with that? What's wrong with this group? Why did they run away? What should they have done? They should have protested. They should have protested. Hey, Mike, can you do us a favor? Get together, a few hundred people, a few thousand people here for a demo. Mike, you listening? Why'd you run away? You saved yourself, maybe. But how about all those other people inside? Forgot about them, eh? Okay, second group. What was their mistake? They bring their own food. It's Badatz Eidah Charidit. There's another 6 kosher stamps, certificates on the, those meals. I mean, there's no room for any, for the name of the company. Very interesting Gemara. It says in Avodah Zarah, page 8, the following. Listen to this, Gaval. Put on a seatbelt here. We're going for a heavy curve here, heavy turn. Rabbi Ishmael says the following, that Jews that live outside the land of Israel, they worship idols in a pure fashion. Listen to this. Jews who live outside the land of Israel are worshiping idols, but in a kosher fashion. What does that mean? Idol worshiping and kosher? It doesn't go together. What does it mean? Let's go on. Ketzad, how is that possible? A Gentile, the Gemara goes on, a Gentile makes a party for one of his children, and he invites all the Jews of the neighborhood, of the community, to the party of his son, a daughter, whatever. Even though the Jewish people bring their own food. Sounds familiar, eh? Even though Jews bring their own food or have it catered by a Jew, even though they're drinking their drinks, they brought the drinks, the wine is their wine. The alcohol is their alcohol. Even so, they have somebody that's overlooking that everything is okay. They have an overseer to make sure that everything's kosher. Everything is 100%. There's no funny play here with any of the food or the drink. Okay, so they have their own representatives in the party, making sure. Even so, the Torah says, I consider them. There's a verse after the sin of the calf. There's a verse in the portion of the week, Ki Tisa. It's in Exodus 34, verse 16. It says the following: I will call you, and you will eat from my foreign idol worshiping. Once again, I will call out to you, and you will eat from my foreign idol worshiping. What does this mean? It says the following: that even though a Jew brings their own food, and even though a Jew brings their own drinks, and even though they have people they have representatives that they have to make sure that everything's okay, and no one's playing any games over here. Even so, Hashem says, I look at you as if you've taken place, if you've taken part, as if you have become an accomplice to the eating of foreign idol worshiping. So therefore, now let's go back. The Talmud tells us that Jews that live outside the land of Israel, as if they're worshiping idols in a pure form. How's that possible to be pure? Well, they're bringing their own kosher food. That's pretty pure. They're bringing their own kosher drinks. That's pretty pure. They have their own people on the inside. That's pretty pure. No! It's not pure. You're idol worshippers. Just pure idol worshippers. So that's the third group who brought their own food and kept Shabbos. Fourth group didn't go. Rav Shlomo Alkavetz says, who was that? That was Mordechai. That was Mordechai. Unbelievable Torah. I don't understand. We're talking about groups here. Yeah, groups is plural. So Rav Shlomo Alkavetz says unbelievable Torah. When you're doing the right thing, you are plural. You're the nation of Israel. He says, Mordechai nechshav kirabim. Mordechai is considered to be the population. One guy? Yeah. When you're doing the right thing, you're the representative of Am Yisrael. So folks, let's go back here a little bit. We have this party. The Jewish people are claiming, Mordechai, you're going to get us. This is a danger. This is a danger. If we do not go participate, Achashverosh is going to get upset. He's going to kill us. You are endangering the Jewish people. Please stop this. Mordechai says, don't go. There are 4 ideologies that from this dispute, there comes 4 ideologies. People that go and they eat whatever it's there, they eat. No problem. Why? Maybe they also felt that it was, if we're going to insult them by not eating their food, this is going to cause a rift. If we don't become part of them, it's going to cause a rift between us, and then we're going to the Jewish people are going to be endangered. I'm trying to say, it doesn't mean that these people were wicked, like they got, 20 earrings on their ear, and they got tattoos left and right. No, not necessarily. Could be that they came from a righteous, so-called, position of not endangering the Jewish people. So we gotta, jive with the crowd. So we have these 4 groups. Now, the unbelievable thing is, this party happened during the 3rd year of the reign of Achashverosh, King Achashverosh. 9 years go by. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Mordechai, they're going by Mordechai, baby. Man, were you wrong? You told us that there was going to be a big backlash. You told us that the prosecution was going to be all over us. We were going to pay the price. What a joke. 9 years go by. Shh. You ask sometimes a Jew, You ask them, oh, you ask a person, how's the situation in the land of Israel? Oh, everything's fine, very quiet. They haven't listened, for 1 hour or 2 hours on the news. They haven't said anything, so everything is quiet, Everything is quiet. Everything is quiet, okay? It's always quiet before the Big Bang, this is ridiculous. 9 years go by. That's your proof? Everything's quiet? Check this unbelievable. We go around singing on Purim, V'nafochu. It's a very popular, it's like the top, the top song, number 1, right? We go around singing V'nafochu. I'm telling you on this Purim, when you're singing it, think about this V'nafochu. The Jewish people point the finger at Mordechai. You are endangering us, the Jewish people. And Mordechai says, V'nafochu. What are you talking about? It's exactly the opposite. You're endangering the Jewish people. For 9 years, it looked like the people were correct. They were right. But 9 years just doesn't, in Jewish time, don't mean anything. So folks, listen to this. They claim that he was endangering the Jewish people. The Talmud says, on the 12th page of Megillah, the Talmud says in Tractate Megillah, why was God willing to eliminate the Jewish people, to destroy the Jewish people? You know why? Because of the fact they participated in that party. Oh my God, is there greater V'nafochu, the opposite? Is there any greater upside down than this one? I don't know. Mordechai tells them the truth. By the fact that you're going to go to the party, this is going to be what's going to destroy the Jewish people. And they say, no, you're going to destroy the Jewish people. By telling us not to go to the party, you're endangering all the people of Israel. You're the danger. History shows us, V'nafochu. The true danger to the Jewish people was this fear. Was the fear of what the Gentiles would do, what they would say if the Jews didn't show up at the party. That fear turned out to be the death sentence of the Jewish people. So folks, think about that when you're singing V'nafochu, V'nafoch, 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 when you think about it. Where would we be? What side of the spectrum? It's very easy right now. Yeah, well, baby, man, if I was there back then, I would be with Mordechai. Yeah, because you know the end of the story, Jack. But where do we stand? There were a lot of great people, and they looked and they said, it's a danger to the Jewish people. Not going to the party, you're endangering the entire Jewish nation. Mordechai says no. He was a minority. He says no, don't go. Okay, now,
Can I throw in a taste of Kabbalah for a second, Rabbi?
taste.
Okay, so we have 18 and 9. You're relating these numbers. So the 18 Chai times the 10 Sfirot is the 180 days. So this is one point of the numerology. Then you have Mordechai with the 9. It's times 20. It's not times 10. We get still to the 180. And they say the letter Kuf is 20. Kaf, 20.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kaf, 20. So, and the world, they say the world stands on truth, and also the letter 20, also in Kabbalah, they say the world stands on this Kaf.
Listen, I'm not a big Kabbalah man, but if you tell me, I accept it. If you tell me, I accept it, baby.
So Mordecai's level was like the double the level. In other words, the people's level was 10 times 18 to get to 180. Mordecai was 20 and 9 and 20 to get to the same level. So he was double. Mordecai's level is like twice as high as the people's level.
Okay, folks. the Ben Ish Chai writes he has a commentary on Purim. He writes on page number 233. He asks a tremendous question. How come it is that Purim sticks out? Purim is totally different from all the other Jewish holidays. What do I mean? Well, if you look at like Hanukkah, you come in your house, you lock the door, you close the door, and you light your little candles, and you eat your little donuts. Or you have, Shavuot, you go to your little study halls, and you close the door, and you learn Torah. Very nice. You have Sukkot, you lock yourself in one of these booths here, one of these, whatever you want to call them, booths, I think they call them in English, Sukkot. You go in there, you try to sleep there, don't come out for sleeping. And when you want to eat inside that little hole. And when you want to drink inside a little hole. And if you want to talk and you want to exercise, do it all in that little, space over there. Okay. Next, we have Passover. Okay, you invite everybody, your friends, families, you lock them into your house. There's one time where you open up the door, and say, Elijah the prophet. Okay, that's it, folks. It's a very short time, We open the door, okay, close it back. Rosh Hashanah, they stick us in a synagogue. They lock us up for about 7-8 hours, depending on what your punishment, whatever synagogue you're at. And for Yom Kippur, they say, well, you're going to be here for a while. They give you one of these one day prison sentence, 24, 25-hour prison sentence. Okay, everything is very inside. All of a sudden, Purim, what the heck is going on? It's Purim in your face. I mean, Purim is on the streets. The street Jew. Yeah, this is your holiday, street Jew.
All right.
Okay, we go. You look. I know in Elon Moreh, one day a year, there's traffic jams. In the settlement of Elon Moreh, just one day a year, there's traffic. Why? Because you have cars that stop in the middle of the road, they all get out, and they start, dancing with one another. So, you just wait patiently till they get tired. It depends what age they are. People older, they tend to tire easily. If they're young people, you might be there for quite some time. So, it's all on the street. People are going to people's houses. They're going on the streets in order to deliver the scrumptious treats that they've prepared. People on the streets are asking for money. You have to give anybody that's asking for donations. You have to give them donations. So there's a lot of people on the streets. They're asking for money. There's a lot of people on the streets because they're going from place to place. It's a holiday. It's on the street. Now, and even in the synagogue, when you read the Megillah, it's not a quiet. There's people pull out an RPG when they say Haman's name, bow! Today, man, they have helium bombs going off. You have these groggers that, these Chazon Ish groggers it's like a chainsaw. And it's like wild, and you could hear there's explosions, people are setting off all kinds of explosives, everything is heard outside. So the Ben Ish Chai says, what's the deal here? This is a holiday, it's an exception to the rule. What's going on? Listen to this Torah. This is an unbelievable Torah. Remember this during your life. It might pop up. He says the following. Excuse me, it's on the wrong page. We're on not 233, we're on 149, the 8th chapter, the 17th verse of the Megillah. Here's what he writes. He says that the Chida and others say the following. Why is it a holiday that it's so much noise? We're making so much noise. It's in the street. It's in your face. Why? It's specifically a holiday to be celebrated outside. Why? In order to get the message across to the nations, You don't mess with Jews. Got it? You don't mess with us. That is the idea. Folks, you're still sitting in them seats. Wow, I really admire you for being able to sitting over there. Why? So the Chida says, people are going to ask the Jews, what's going on over here? Why is it so crazy? People are dancing, people are yelling, people are with the groggers, people are with music, what's going on? Oh, you don't know? Some years ago, some thousands of years ago, there was the whole story. We started telling the story. Okay, what was the story? That the Jews annihilated the enemies instead of the enemies annihilating. Ooh, the guy's shaking in his boots. The guy's shaking. So the Chida gives an unbelievable Torah. You know how to make the Gentiles afraid of you? Put it in their face. In their face. That's going to put fear into them. Ben Ish Chai says, listen, that might be a nice, reason, but I don't understand something. To me, I can't buy that. Why not? Sounds good to me. He says the following. Listen. He says, I can understand Pesach. What happened on Passover? I can understand the Gentiles being afraid of Passover. Why? Because Passover, you have the 10 plagues, it's like big time. It's like big time, like all of a sudden the water, the water you're drinking, you went for a Coke, and it's turning in, you're taking a shower, the blood comes out, and it's like unbelievable stuff. You come to the sea, and it splits. I mean, this is, Hashem just turned over the world. I can understand, the Ben Ish Chai says, I can understand the Gentiles being afraid of Passover. What's Purim? So then the Ben Ish Chai, playing the devil's advocate, he says, I'll tell you the answer. The Gentiles know that the Jewish people are no longer on the level that God presents, does open miracles for the Jewish people. The Gentiles know, they see their neighbors, they see the situation the Jewish people are in, they see the assimilated. And they see what level spiritually we're on. They know that God is just not going to perform any above the laws of nature miracles, open miracles, where Hashem changes the total law of nature. They're not afraid, because it's not going to happen again. They're afraid of one holiday, Purim. Why? Because there were no open miracles. It's just all natural. There was a woman, and then she passed away, and there was a beauty pageant, and the story goes on. Everything is under control. Everything is just the way it worked out. So the Ben Ish Chai says, that's why Purim and not Passover. Passover they're not afraid of. But Purim they are, because they understood that we're no longer, during Purim, we were no longer on the level. In fact, I'm not going to go into it right now, but this is a class within itself. Very interesting. On Passover, we know there were 4 things that saved the Jewish people. They didn't change their names, they didn't change their language, they didn't change their looks. Okay? 4 things that they didn't change. On Purim, doesn't exist anymore. Mordechai, not a Jewish name. Esther, not a Jewish name. Going to parties. Okay, what language did they speak? Man, they didn't speak the Holy Tongue. They didn't speak Hebrew. They lost the language. Just look in the book of Ezra. Whoa. What saved them in Egypt? They weren't assimilated. There were no Jews in Egypt that went with Gentile women, men. But there were many in Persia, in Babylonia, tremendous amount of assimilation of the Jewish people. High percentage of Jews were assimilated. Just look at the book of Ezra. So folks, we lost it. We lost the merit of Passover. That's why the Ben Ish Chai says, that we celebrate in the street the holiday of Purim in order to get the message over to the Gentiles. You don't mess around with us. Folks, you're sitting here, we're sitting here, and everything's cool. No. We would think just the opposite. This is going to make it worse. Now, where am I getting this from? It says in the Talmud, on the 7th page, Tractate Megillah, it says the following, that Esther comes to the wise men, the Chachamim of the generation, and she's asking, can you please include this story that has happened to us just now? Can you include it in the then 23 books of the Bible? Can you include me in them? They look at her like she's a nut. Esther, do you want to create a situation? If we publicize this story, if we publicize it, if we're going to do an Eric Snowden, right? Esther Snowden here. Okay, Esther Snowden. If we're going to do this, do you understand that the Gentiles will see that we are celebrating the downfall of the Gentiles? Do you understand what the ramifications are going to be for this, for writing it down? They're going to have tremendous amount of ammunition to use it against the Jewish people. You are endangering the Jewish people. Okay, so we're not talking about rocket science here. Very interesting. So Esther says, what are you talking about? It's already written down in the Chronicles of the nations of Madai and Persia. It's already there. Don't worry about it. We see here from the Ben Ish Chai the opposite. What calms the nations down? What keeps them away? Purim keeps them away. Be careful. Beware of the Jewish people. Don't mess with us. So that's a tremendous. Once again, when we're singing this year, V'nafochu, it's the opposite. It all turned around. Remember this second lesson, right? The first one was the party. The second one is the writing itself. Okay, the writing itself of the Megillah, including it in the Bible, in the now 24 books of the Bible, it's included, and the celebrations of Purim, which are in the public domain, in order to get that message across. Okay, don't mess with the Jewish people. Okay, now we have a case. We're on the 3-minute warning here. 2-minute warning here. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to try to say it fast. Okay, in 1930, the Arabs, the Mufti, may their names be erased, they came up to the Jewish people and said, listen, let's make a deal. I don't know if Monty Hall was there and Carol Merrill was there behind the curtain. I don't know. But she says, let's make a deal. What was the deal? If the Jewish people agree to give up your claim that the Kotel, the Western Wall, belongs to the Jewish people or has any importance to the Jewish people, if you're willing to give up that claim that it belongs to the Jewish people, we will allow you to pray there all times of the day, 24/7. You know, ahlan sahlan, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, now, who was for this? Who was for this? Okay, here's the organizations that were for it. For were the following. We have the Zionist, Analat Tzionit, the Zionist, leadership. We had Vada Leumi, the national leadership. They were for this. We had the Jewish Agency. They were all for giving up our rights, our claim that the Kotel belongs to the Jewish people. They're all for it. Why? Very simply, because the Arabs added that if you don't agree to this deal, well, the pogroms are going to begin rolling. So instead of the good times rolling, let the pogroms roll. So they were saying, oh, this is a great opportunity. We'll be able to pray, you know, our heads down, we'll be able to pray, and we'll just say that we'll claim that it does not belong to us. Stay tuned next week. We'll find out what Rav Kook had to say.
God bless, Rabbi. I just wanted to say in the last second that Esther was a